Much of the attention of the world this week has been on the US debt talks and the implications for the world economy. But in Geneva, another set of very important talks has been taking place, this time between Iran and six world powers, the US, Russia, China, France, Germany and Britain. And those talks are the first since the election of President Hassan Rouhani back in June to look at the future of the Iranian nuclear program. The West remains deeply concerned that the Iranian program is aimed at creating a nuclear weapon, and Iran, for its part, is determined that the US and the European Union should lift economic sanctions which are crippling the economy and which are being imposed as a punishment for Iran's further work on uranium enrichment. The talks thus far have gone pretty well. Senior Western diplomats said after the talks that they had been the most serious and detailed discussions about the Iranian program that they had ever had. We know that they've looked at a wide range of issues like the enrichment program, centrifuges that Iran has, and in particular they've begun for the very first time to look at something that they've never discussed before, which is the end state of the Iranian program. In other words, what is Iran actually going to have in terms of uranium enrichment capability and nuclear capability in the very long term? And that is a very sensitive issue because the Iranians want to retain what they call the eternal right to enrich uranium for their nuclear energy program. And that is something which a lot of powers, Israel in particular, but also Republicans back in Congress, don't want to see the Iranians retaining. These talks are very important for a number of reasons. First of all, there's a strong perception in the West that Iran is getting pretty close to the point with its program where it will be able to build a nuclear weapon. The fear is that if nothing is resolved, then the US and Israel might then move to a situation where they actually carry out military attack on the program. But more generally, obviously, an agreement over the nuclear program would pave the way for a much easier relationship between Iran and the US. They are certainly moving to a point where some very hard dealing is going to happen, but it's also a sign that they really are now getting to the crux of what the difference between Iran and the US has been over the nuclear issue for a very long time. James Blitz, Financial Times, Geneva.